Hey, today I'm talking about three 1940s Cary Grant films. And the names of those three films are Suspicion, Arsenic and Old Lace, and Notorious. First up is Suspicion. This is a 1941 Hitchcock film starring Cary Grant and Joan Fontaine. And I like this movie a lot. So the basic premise is Joan plays this rich socialite person, but she's kind of closed off. She doesn't really like the fame. She likes what she likes. She's not really into boys at all. But then one day she kind of comes across Cary Grant, and Cary Grant's Cary Grant and is very charming. So maybe she falls for him. But then maybe he's not all that he seems. Is he a little slimy? Is he a little gambling addict? Maybe. And yeah, it's great. It's really about like toxic relationships and how people constantly make excuses for their partner, even when it's like blatantly like giant flashing sign like this person's bad. Here's all the red flags. We're still just like, no, it's not. It's fine. They're good. We're good. We're good. But then it's also just kind of like a mystery of like, okay, he's lying all the time, Cary Grant's character, but there's some nuggets of truth in there. So what is true in what he's saying? Because we do get more or less definitive answers to certain things. So like the truth is out there, but you have to piece it together. And Hitchcock himself said he was kind of dissatisfied with the ending because he did change the ending from the book this is based off of. And at first I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I like that ending because it's kind of a happy ending. But I sort of thought about it a bit, and it's kind of the most messed up ending. And it's really, really interesting. I definitely enjoyed this movie a lot. Without a doubt recommend it. And it's definitely in contention for one of my favorite Hitchcock films. I haven't seen all of them, and it's been a while since I've seen some of his classics, but it's definitely up there, that's for sure. So yeah, it's a really good movie that I definitely recommend. Next up is Arsenic and Old Lace. This is a 1944 film starring Cary Grant and Priscilla Lane, and the basic premise is kind of hard to explain because it's really ridiculous. I will say first though, I've been wanting to watch this movie for forever because I really love Runaways, the comic The Runaways, and if you don't know, the Velociraptor from that is named after this movie. And so I was hoping the name of the movie would make more sense after having watched it, and it kind of doesn't. It sort of does, but not really. Anyway, so the basic premise is Cary Grant plays this critic, and he's fallen madly in love, and he wants to get married. Maybe he does get married, and then he goes to see his aunts to tell them about it, and then go on their honeymoon. But then maybe there's a dead body that he has to deal with suddenly. And it's a lot of fun. It's definitely silly and ridiculous and over the top and zany, but it works pretty dang well. I will say though that the day I watched this movie, I was not in a good mood, and I didn't realize I wasn't in a good mood until I was in the middle of this movie, and I'm like, I should be enjoying this more. What's going on with me? And I'm like, oh no, I feel bad. All right, well that's not good. But even with my foul mood, I still enjoy this movie a good solid amount, but I know on future rewatch, which I will do someday, I'm gonna like this movie more. I definitely think it deserves like the cult classic claim that it has of just being a really solid, good 40s movie. And I will say too that I was kind of wondering if Cary Grant didn't have like the biggest range, because a lot of his characters that I've seen so far are fairly similar. They're definitely different, but it's not like the biggest gap. And this one is definitely the biggest departure for him. He's unlike any of the other movies I've watched him in so far this year. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed this movie and would totally recommend it. It's a good, fun, silly, ridiculous time. I do want to quickly say though that during the opening credits, there's like a bunch of witch art that's happening, and I thought there were going to be witches in this movie because of it, but there are no witches in this movie. So just in case you were like me and you think there's witches or there's going to be witches, there are no witches. Deal with it. It's just Halloween. That's why there's witches. Still a good movie though. And lastly is Notorious, the 1946 Hitchcock movie starring Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman. And the basic premise is Ingrid plays this maybe Nazi who gets recruited by the US government to go down to South America to investigate some other Nazis who are doing maybe some shady stuff. And it's pretty good. So it's kind of like a thriller mystery-ish thing as they kind of uncover what's happening. My biggest issue with the movie, it took me a long time to get into the movie, and that's because the whole beginning is incredibly reliant on you believing Grant and Birdman quickly fall in love and that they're deeply in love. And I did not buy that. It happened way too fast, and I just didn't get, like, they didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. And so I really didn't get into this movie until I think the third act, after the big party scene where it kind of starts to get a bit intense. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, now I'm enjoying this movie a lot. But that's, again, like, close to the end of the movie, so like there's a lot of runtime there where I'm just not into it. So yeah, I still like the movie, I still enjoyed it. It just didn't work as well for me as the other two. I will say though that it did have some very good cinematography, some very Hitchcockian cinematography that I liked a lot. But yeah, it's not my favorite Hitchcock film. I still enjoyed it. I would maybe recommend it if it looks really interesting to you, or what I've said so far really like piques your interest, then yeah, sure, go for it. But I feel like there's a lot other Hitchcock films or Cary Grant films that I would recommend before this one. It's still good, it's fine, it's not bad, it's just kind of work your way down to this one, is basically what I'm saying. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Suspicion sitting at number 2 in the really like section. So good. And then after that is Arsenic and Old Lace sitting at number 6 in the quite like section. And then bringing up in the rear is Notorious, sitting at number 8 in the liked section. And this is out of a total of 9 old movies so far this year.